Into the dawn. Hello everyone, I'm the Holy Hermit and I welcome you all to our very first podcast. A Diablo-centric podcast which probably will not be about Diablo, as we tend to keep things very casual around here. In case you're watching this video on YouTube or on Twitch later on, this was recorded live in our audience on the Sunday, I can't even remember the date. It's 19th of January, here we go. And that tells you the theme of our podcast. The way we're going to go about this podcast is going to be very casual. I will try to answer all the questions you guys ask, also the questions I get asked on my YouTube channel. More importantly, I'll have awesome guests coming on our show. And to mark our very first episode, I have a very amazing gentleman from YouTube. He's a fellow Diablo player. He's also a fellow League of Legends player. One of the best YouTubers, Diablo players I know. I've already embarrassed you so much, haven't I? So please do introduce yourself, sir. Who are we talking to today?
What's going on, everybody? I'm Chrome Rust, and it's good to be here on the Holy Hermit, the first podcast. Very exciting, and I never get tired of your poems, I have to tell you that. All
right, even though I muck up the poem in the beginning. Thank you so much, Mr. Chrome Rust. Guys, in case you don't know, I'm probably going to mention that again. If you're after any kind of amazing in-depth knowledge about Diablo, what's the future of D3, which is what we're going to talk about today, believe it or not, definitely check out my friend's YouTube channel. The link will be in the description of the video. And the final guest I want to introduce, which is not a guest, but it's the biggest kind of thing, the biggest part of the show, which is our live audience here right now on Twitch. So as you can see in the chat, we have quite a few awesome people here. We also have another celebrity here from our Twitch channel. He's called Mr. Christian X93, a fellow monk player and a very good friend of mine. Alongside, we also have other players here, people and players of course, who all play Diablo. You'll see them typing messages. They're probably going to make fun of me, which is obviously what I would encourage as we go along in the podcast. So the final guest is all of you guys watching our live stream right now on Twitch TV. And in case you're watching this on YouTube, do join us, because we probably will be streaming a lot of this, and we'll be doing a weekly podcast, I guess, all the time. So, sir, Mr. Chrome Rust, we should get off into talking about Diablo now, right? Because I think the podcast should be centered around Diablo. We're all Diablo players, and I think we are good at it. So let's start the whole journey, sir. So my very first question, the first topic would be about Reaper of Souls. A question I even got in my last video, which was how to prepare for Reaper of Souls. You know, the game is coming out. What to do? I'm still playing Diablo 3 Vanilla. You see me playing with the monk. So I'll give you my little inside knowledge and what I know, what I think you should do, and how should you prepare for the game. But hey, we have our awesome guest here, so come on, let's embarrass him by putting him on the spot, even though I didn't even introduce him properly earlier. So here we go, Mr. Chrome Rust. What do you think about this? How should one prepare for Reaper of Souls? With the game coming out very soon, what should a player do so that he's in a bit of an advantageous position when the game comes out?
Well, there is a few things, and it is going to kind of depend from player to player, just because the situation that you're in the game, whether you have like 5 characters geared up, or if you have one really well geared character, things like that. So that's also going to depend on like how much gold you're going to have. Like if you have half of your gold in your gear and you only have less than like a bill or something like that, like 1 billion, you know, it might be a little bit too much in the. You might have a little bit too much of your assets in your gear at that point. So if you got like 500 mil in your gear and you got 500 mil in your stash, it might be just a little bit too much. But you know, it's one of those things that if you really like your gear, then there's no reason to sell it. It will help you out in some aspects, but I do hear by the time you reach like level 60, you know, 3, even sooner than that, you will start changing out a few pieces here and there. But there are some pieces, like the Mempho of Twilight. I know that is a very valued
item, definitely. So, yeah.
Yes. Yep, because it does have all the good stats, and I don't believe there's any other helm that will give attack speed currently.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's another important point. Right, so let's talk about this, guys. We'll start off. So those people who've not followed our the whole live streams on Twitch, maybe you're just a person who enjoys watching videos, so we're going to fill you all into the whole structure of what the topic was. So Mr. Core Expert Gaming, as I told you, he gave you the whole gist of what the whole thing is. Now we're going to delve off into, I guess, into a little bit more details about how to prepare for this. So the preparation, in my understanding, is a two-way preparation. The first one is related to the so-called, the early game, when the Reaper of Souls arrived, the early game in the sense that the first few weeks of the game you'll play. And the next one would be the long-term investment, what you're after from Reaper of Souls, because if the preparation will relate to that. So with regards to that, there are two kinds of things you can do, as our friend just touched on earlier. The first one is your Paragon levels. The thing you see me do right now. I have my second monk. I already have 4 Paragon 100 characters, and this monk is level 70. So that's something you can do very easily. And it's something, probably one of the most important things. We'll get into that later on. So the first point is I'm trying to make is getting your levels up, getting those Paragon levels up, because all these Paragon levels add up. You have a collective Paragon level, and that Paragon level will relate to a set amount of Paragon points, which you can then invest in your character and give you extra offensive, defensive, or even adventuring stats. So that's something very important. And the other thing, as our friend said about Mempo, is investing in items. So that's another important part. Items, some of them can be useful and others can't be. Now this is the speculation bit. As I said, we can, Mr. Chrome here and I and our audience in the chat can definitely tell you that definitely 100% leveling up your Paragon characters is a good thing. It's something every Diablo player should do, every pro or semi-pro Diablo player should do. And by pro I mean someone who plays the game very often, not like a competitive player. But in terms of getting items, I think this is something which is a grey area. So we'll try and help you out here. Because this question I get asked a lot, and I'm sure Mr. Chrome here as well gets asked a lot of these questions. What am I going to do? What item should I buy? So sir, you talked about Mempo. There are a few other items, I think. What do you think about these? People have been talking a lot about Magic Find, and you are the guy on our YouTube to talk about these things. Since Magic Find is getting the so-called quote-unquote nerf in the expansion, as in the items that are going to roll, they're not going to have that Magic Find on them. Do you think Magic Find on items such as Witching Hour and maybe even Mempo, not Mempo I guess because you can't have the crit chance and that, but do you think items like that will be good? So a Witching Hour with Magic Find, maybe boots like Ice Climbers with Magic Find on, do you think they can be useful, sir? Would that be something good?
Yeah, I definitely think that is something that a lot of players are actually looking into now. I didn't get any real good gear, but I actually kind of started before like all the Sunkeeper hype and everything.
See, there we go. That's another thing.
I don't know if you heard about that, but yeah, basically people are looking for the Sunkeepers because they're level 60 weapon or 63 somewhere in there, but they can get up to 45% Magic Find on them, and people are trying to take those in the Reaper of Souls.
And that's something special, right? Sorry to cut you off, sir. That because you get Magic Find on a weapon, so it's not even on your belt or your chest or anything like that. It's actually on your weapon. So it's very special. So sir, would you please explain like what the whole deal with Sunkeepers are for our friends who don't know much about, you know, why the item could be useful in Reaper of Souls? Because it has not just Magic Find, which is of course the biggest part of it, but it also has certain other advantageous points, like things like critical hit damage, right? So would you like to elaborate on that, sir? Like how that works out?
Yeah, sorry. That's right. If you are going to be looking for a Sunkeeper, there are going to be some select stats that you're going to want to look for on them, because if you look at the item, it has very low damage on it. But what you're going to actually do is roll the 300 damage to 600 damage or whatever it is.
So the average damage you'll re-roll. See, that's the trick there, because you go to Enchantress and she can only re-roll one stat, and you would want to roll the main stat that you want to roll would be this average damage, as Mr. Chrome here is talking about. So that's something important about Sunkeeper, right? Right, Mr. Chrome?
That's very right. And so if you do that, you're going to have a high percentage roll on there as well. You're going to want one with like 49 or 50%, because that isn't going to multiply the average damage that you just re-rolled on your weapon.
That's great. So another stat, and help me out here guys. So I don't know if Mr. Chrome can see, but our viewers can. So I just picked this item up from my inventory. And this is something I purchased for about, I think, 20 million. Now this could be a risky investment, but if you really want to know what Hermit is, you know, looking into Reaper of Souls right now, yeah, Magic Find is another good stat. But me, as you guys know, I like to make builds. To me, loot is important, but to me more important are the builds and all. And if an item can help in builds, I would go for that. So personally, and I would love to get Mr. Chrome's opinion on this, and you guys in the chat, please help me out. This is the item I purchased. Now have a look at this Witching Hour, guys. It has a very low main stat. Intelligence is guaranteed. It has max attack speed, and it has crit damage of 47, so almost maxed out. What it does have is no vitality, but it has 12% to life, so it has the maximum life one can have on your belt. But it also has golden health pickup radius. So Mr. Chrome, the question in a way is, I think pickup radius will be another very important stat, don't you think, sir? Because the big items in Reaper of Souls, you only see a pickup radius right now, as we see in the beta, like only maybe 1 or 2 yard pickup radius. So what do you think about that, Mr. Chrome? So do you think this is a useful stat to have, golden health?
I think it could be very useful, especially on characters like the Witch Doctor, who actually some of their abilities require you to have some pickup radius
Mm-hmm.
from like the passives that you get to pick up the health globes or whatever it may need to be.
Uh-huh.
I think there's some buffs from picking up gold now as well.
Yeah.
Just when you run over gold, you'll get a minor buff to your damage or
Exactly.
resistance. I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, to have 7 on one item and not have to spread that across 3 separate items is definitely going to be something that could be pretty huge, especially when you have the life percent roll on there, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Percentage life is going to be way better than 90 vitality. 'Cause
Exactly.
We're going to be seeing like 900 vitality rolls on like shoulders and things like that.
That's a very important point you're making, sir, because the items you find, first of all, the loot is called smart loot, which means not every item, but there's a bigger chance for... So look at these items on the floor right now, just to put things in perspective. I just found these items, and I'm sure 99.9% of you would not even look at it the second thought. You wouldn't even give it a second thought. You're not going to pick it up because they're useless. Even the rares you find, like items I have in my inventory right now, a rare cloak, a dagger, and a helm. I know for a fact that 2 of these are utterly useless. And a dagger might be good, but that's not going to be the case in Reaper of Souls. The stats you're going to roll are going to be smart drops. That's what they're saying. Some of them have a higher chance of being a smart roll. And the way you look at it, if you have, let's say, your whole inventory stash full in them, probably 1 or 2 of them will be smart drops. And what a smart drop means is it's going to be catered towards you. If you have a monk running, the stat it's going to roll is not going to be intelligence and strength. It's going to roll dexterity and it's going to roll vitality. And to get back to our friend's point here, vitality will roll higher. And your character, like right now, my monk has 45k life. Mr. Chrome, what do you think are the, like, I'm sure you're following people who are playing Reaper of Souls beta. What vitality are they sitting on? I'm sure it's a crazy number, right? So
yeah, I know people have been sitting up, you know, in the hundreds of Ks for, well, I don't know about the actual vitality number exactly.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm just talking general, the health pool.
Yeah, life pool, I've definitely seen, you know, like 600k, I do believe, and I think they might even be getting slightly higher than that. I haven't checked out a ton here recently since they did the update just a couple days ago, so I'm not totally sure what they're sitting on now.
The point is, sir, I think that the vitality pool is very high. Rather than, you know, it being 40, 50k, it's in hundreds. So if you even get a witching hour or any other main item getting back to the witching hour point, or, you know, getting the life percentage, even if you find like a perfect Enos chest, for example, with, you know, 299 vitality, it's not going to be that important, because compare that vitality to a level 70 item with vitality, it's not even gonna, it's like comparing a level 50 item to a level 60 item right now. It pretty much is the same comparison. So what you want instead, in my opinion, is, again, to survive better, is to items that have life percentage on them. So something like this is more useful than you know, getting items with vitality. So I think that's another important item. Any other stats do you think, sir, that could be useful in Reaper of Souls? To me, I think it's mainly the pickup radius, the magic find, and maybe some you know, some simple stats like I think all res as well could be useful. What do you think about all res in the expansion, sir? Because you're getting all res gems. We all know that diamond gems are popping into this. Into the Reaper of Souls, that you can just put in your chest and they'll give you an all res bonus. So any thoughts on that, sir? So what would you recommend? Any ideas on all res, or is it still a dodgy topic?
It's a little dodgy, but I think all resistance is, if you have like an 80 roll, which would be perfect currently, is definitely still going to be helping you out for quite a while, or at least for a few levels and everything. So the items that I think are going to be semi-valuable for quite a while for you is if you're going to be able to get really good jewelry. Now, I don't think, like, if you're getting like 4.5 crit and like 25 crit damage and 7 attack speed and you got like main stat on there, I don't think those are going to be as good. I think they need to be a little bit better if you're going to try to carry over some jewelry items. Because I know in Reaper's Souls you're actually only going to be able to get up to 8 attack speed. And of course we all know that there's proc chances and everything, and we try to hit breakpoints with our attack speed. So if you bring over a really good piece of jewelry or a couple pieces, and that way they all have 9 attack speed on there, that extra 3% attack speed could actually like push you up into a next breakpoint that other players might not even be able to reach.
Definitely, right? You could be this hyper version of yourself. So maybe what we're thinking on along the lines here, guys, what our friend is, you know, obviously explaining is crit chance maybe does not roll that higher, so neither does the attack speed. Of course you can get it from your Paragon points, but from what we've seen in the items so far, and of course this can change because this is Blizzard and they can change their mind because it's their game, you know. We all love the game, but of course they are the ones designing it. So far, the items you find, the fancy legendaries you find, they have beautiful proc chance and, you know, beautiful effects, sorry, that do almost to burn people around you, to the Hellfire Ring we've seen, you know, the new one. They all do amazing things, but in terms of sheer offensive stats, you can't beat a ring that right now has a 9 attack speed and a 50 crit damage and, you know, for example, 6 crit chance. As you said, rings definitely, amulets, if you have a good craft right now, especially in terms of jewelry, and do bear in mind, rings, of course, you know, are something you have to buy, I guess, from the auction house. But amulets, you know, what about amulets, Mr. Chrome? Because you can craft amulets, and if you're lucky enough to get a moderately good item, so for example, if you get an amulet right now that has 8 attack speed, 60 crit damage and 9 crit chance, so nothing perfect by any standard, and if you craft, let's say, amulet of dexterity, you end up getting, I don't know, 200 dexterity and let's say 100 intelligence, because I do have amulets like that. Right now I don't want to use them, but in Reaper of Souls, if you can re-roll a stat, don't you think they're going to be very valuable?
Oh yes, definitely. That is something I'm actually doing myself as well. I am crafting amulets with my demonic essences currently. I know some players are saving them. As soon as Reaper of Souls does launch, they just want to like craft 1,000 amulets and hope they get a good one or whatever. But I kind of want to just be able to have my amulet already. Exactly. And I'm only going to be losing out on I don't know, like 100 main stat, maybe not even that much for what they're going to be rolling in Reaper of Souls.
Yeah.
So I think it's just going to be advantageous because that's also then going to help me Paragon level faster and things like that.
Definitely, right? Yeah. And some jewelry.
I just can't hold on to them anyways, you know.
I'm with you, yes. Like, if I get 20 essences in my stash, I'm like, oh man, time to get rid of them, you know. I just can't keep them, so... and I've never had a good luck with amulets, guys, but still, please don't lose hope. I still think crafting amulets, you know, it's definitely a good thing to do, not just for now, but for the future of Reaper of Souls. But again, the future, and that's a question, you know, I always have been wondering, like, we say this item is going to be advantageous, but most people who make even videos on this, which we haven't made so far, but I think we should do that, Mr. Chrome, at some point. What is advantageous in a way? Like, if you can say this item is going to be good in Reaper of Soul, for how long? But the question is not about whether it's useful or not. The question is, for how long will it be useful? And by that I mean, you'll progress from level 60, which you are right now, and as soon as Reaper of Souls hits, you're going to start leveling up Paragon, you know, not Paragon level instantly, you're going to level up the character level, which will be 61, 62 to 69, and then 70. Now, we all know how fast we can level up, especially with the new bounty system, if you haven't seen that. But even if you forget all that, if we just go to Keep Depths 2 and if we do farming with a good party, we can get from level 60 to level 70 in no time. So the question I'm trying to, I guess, ask over here is, even if all these items we just talked about, having high magic find, getting items like Sunkeeper, finding belts like Witching Hour with some pickup radius, hopefully magic find, and some, you know, life percentage, they're all good, but the question is, for how long will they be good? Because eventually you will find upgrade. When you hit level 70, a level 70 item will be godly compared to a level 60 item. A simple comparison is, you know, if you look at a level 50 item right now, how many people are using it? I have never seen anyone use a level 50, 60 item, unless they're using a Sledge Fist, which again has a completely different purpose, as you've seen in the video. But the point is, there is such disparity between a level 50 and a 60 item that when you reach to your so-called inferno farming stage right now, they are utterly useless. So will that be the state of the items later on? And if that will be the state, which I think it will be, how long do you reckon it will take? And I'm talking in terms of gameplay hours. So the question, I guess, again, is going back to the so-called item finding. How long will it take for us to find a good item in Reaper of Souls? So what do you think about that, Mr. Chrome? Because that's, I think, an important question, because it relates to, you know, if we get all these items, how long will it be before we get our next upgrade? And whether we should invest, let's say, 50 million, 200 million gold into even getting these items, because very soon enough, we are going to replace them, you know? So what do you think about that, sir?
I think it's going to partially depend on which slot it is. I have heard that pretty much shoulders, chest, and like boots, they're all rolling like really high main stats. So if our shoulders now, if you have like 300 plus of your main stat on there, it's probably really good currently. But the new ones are going to have like upwards of like 800-900s and everything. So it's pretty much just going to blow like the chest and the shoulders out of the water. I think things like the Mempho, like I was talking about earlier, if you get a 9-6, which is 9 attack speed, 6 crit chance on there, I think you're going to, it's going to last for a little while, which would, I guess, in terms of gameplay, would be around like Torment 3, Torment 4, somewhere in there. I think at that point you would probably be looking to switch those out. If it's jewelry and it's really perfect, which I don't even have anything like that, so there's only going to be a few lucky people that are going to be able to do that. But if it's like the 9 attack speed, 100 crit damage, 10 crit chance with main stat and all res on your amulet, I think those will be viable till like Hermit 6.
See, that's such an
unless you find an upgrade, obviously. It's going to be hard to upgrade past something like that, because it is going to be pretty much perfect, and the percentage rolls on there, like the crit hit damage, attack speed, are not going to roll any higher in Reaper of Souls.
Exactly, yeah. So, so please, sir, a final verdict on this topic from your kind self. How much money should roughly a player spend in trying to find items in the current vanilla system, so that they could be kind of well prepared? And again, this is all a gamble, isn't it? Even though we're telling you this item could be useful, we truly apologize, because, you know, if it doesn't work out, we really would apologize, because, you know, it's just a gamble. It's something what we're making an educated guess, because Mr. Chrome here is, you know, he's a veteran of the game. I've played the game for quite a while, and this is our opinion. So again, with that risk in mind, sir, how much would you think would be like a good amount of gold, you know, to spend on these kind of items for a player who doesn't play Diablo all that often, if that makes sense?
I think if you're just casual and you don't have a ton of gold, I don't even think it's going to totally worth be to invest in items like this, because as we're saying, they're going to be obsolete at some point. It's just how long is it going to be. The players that do this are going to have a slight edge, but really I would focus on getting some okay gear, you know, like 100 mil somewhere in there, and just try to have that edge and advantage that way of just being able to go burn through the content a little bit faster and start finding those items even faster then.
Okay, then, sir, so that's a good point you made. So that's our verdict, guys. Try and spend roughly around 50 to 100 million if you have that kind of money lying around. And if you're like, so like me, I've got about, let's say, 360 mil. I've already done my purchase. Right now, I want to keep this gold for crafting. And speaking of crafting, sir, I'm sure you've seen the Enchantress. And you've seen the way you can, we just talked about it earlier, how you can, you know, re-roll the stat of the average damage into higher. So this Echoing Fury with the so-and-so damage could be rolled higher. What do you think about that, sir? What do you think about crafting in general? So do you think the gold you save, shall we do crafting with that? Or do you think the gold we'll find from the bounties will be enough and we don't need to have plenty of gold in our thing? So we've already answered the question, of course, about the items, how much you should spend. But how much should you keep in your inventory for Reaper of Souls? What do you think about that, sir?
I think you should keep as much as you can. I do see the gold drops, or the gold that you acquire in the game, is it doesn't seem like it's quite enough. It seems like you're going to be kind of wanting to pick up a lot of the gold piles that you do run by. So I'd try to kind of stock up on the gold if you could.
Okay.
I think it's definitely something that'll be helping you out, especially if you do want to craft and things like that, and if you do plan to reroll items, that's where it's going to get really costly.
Ah, great, thank you for that. So our friend from the chat, Mr. Tahol, is saying, lol, he's got 15 million. Then that's okay, my friend. I would recommend you to save that money. You know, just keep playing the game where you're playing. As we talked about, it's not really a big advantage. So by all means, my friend, do keep hold of that gold. If you still need some very minor upgrades, maybe save it for the end of when the auction house shuts down. And that's another biggie we'll probably tackle in the next podcast of ours. But I think for right now, we should move on to another big giant in the room, sir. And I think I'm sure you know I'm going to talk about, it's going to be about the nerfs to the lifesteal. So that's the biggie, right? Some people are panicking, others have no idea. So would you enlighten us on that? How is the lifesteal going to work? Like, what's the big deal with that? Any idea, sir?
I think it's going to all be alright. I think that people are just panicking a little bit too much, and it's one of those things, if it isn't to where they want it to be, they're going to fix it. Because they are going to also, from what I heard, they're going to be nerfing things like the affix on elites, which is they reflect damage. That currently takes like a percentage of your life, but it's just going to be a flat number in Reaper of Souls is what they planned so far. I don't think it's official yet, but I don't see why they'd want to change something like that. But they could. They could make it a very small percentage.
Okay, so that's a good point, right? So lifesteal, and also, sir, I would like to get your opinion on a beautiful monk skill. We always talk about this. It's called Transcendence, and it gives you a special ability, and that's where we're going to get into the topic. So this is us trying to relieve you guys of the worry that, hey, lifesteal's gone, it's time to, you know, just panic and run to the woods. No. So just to get your thoughts on that, so what do you think about skills such as life per spirit spent and life per fury spent for barbarian, which is not a big thing because only one set item gives you that right right now. But especially for monks, it's more prevalent and it's easy to understand. So what do you think about that being buffed in Reaper of Souls and that being a way of surviving? So what do you think about that, Mr. Chrome?
I think it's going to be enjoyable. It's just going to kind of change up the gameplay slightly. I mean, when you're dishing out your big damaging skills, you're still going to be using quite a bit of fury or spirit, depending on the character you are, and you're going to be gaining that life back. It's just going to be another stat that you're going to be able to get instead of lifesteal, so it's kind of just replacing one another in that case.
All right, see, that's a good point, right? So I really think so that these, when you are spending a lot of your resource, which is what a monk exactly does, which is what a barbarian also does, you know, when you've got all these hammers flying around, you are basically expending that resource. And skills such as life per fury spent and life per, rats spend, or even life per spirit spend, all these skills, they basically give you life back. And just to give you an example, you saw me play earlier with a monk. I only had 2.8% lifesteal. Everything else was actually coming from my life per whatever. And as we keep talking about this, I'm actually going to switch and I'll show our awesome viewers about and I'm just going to show another monk that I haven't showed on the channel. It's a pretty funny thing. I'll see what you guys say about this. So basically, I'll play with the monk with just life per something spent gear, which is life per spirit spent for him, and I'll try and survive on MP10. So, but moving on further with the topics, I'm gonna ask you another question, I guess, which will be, I'm going down. I have written this down somewhere. I have written down the questions, guys, by the way. So let's see. Yes. What about the range characters? Yeah, that's something I was wondering earlier as well. So again, melee characters, Mr. Chrome, have this life per whatever resource spent. The more resource they spend, the more they heal. But I think range characters like wizards don't have that. But they do have armor buff. So do you think this will be enough, or is this something we should again worry about? What do you think about that, sir?
Honestly, I play the barbarian quite a bit, and melee characters I do like the monk as well. And if I play my witch doctor, it's normally Cloud of Bats, so that's pretty up in your face as well. So I'm not totally sure, but I do know, like on the barbarian, that rend currently you have to use a passage or one of the ruins on there, and it'll give you a percentage of your life.
Exactly.
Well, in Reaper of Souls now, Ren just has that built into the skill itself. It actually says heals for 0.5% of your maximum life per second for every attacked enemy.
Oh wow, nice. So there we go.
So you're going to be getting survivability in the form of your skills. They are tweaking some things there as well.
Okay, so in a way, you know, no matter if you play as a melee character or a ranged character, Diablo, these people, the fancy minds working behind the scenes to make the game for us, I think they've given it a good thought. And again, to add on to that, that's another section I'd like to discuss on, because stealing life, you only want to steal life because you are taking lots of damage. Right now, if you play MP10 and if you stand in the middle of a crowd, it'll take you roughly a second or two to die, no matter how much HP you have. Maybe if you have 100k HP, you'll take a few extra hits. But the problem is, either monsters, they don't hit you at all on lower MPs, or when they hit you like a truck, so you lose so very much of your life. And in the new Reaper of Souls, they're trying to make the structure of the game in a way that you lose chunks of your life. So I'm sure you must have seen that, right, sir? That, Mr. Chrome, that rather than players frantically losing their life left and right, they actually have small chunks of their life removed. So they're losing life gradually and they're gaining life gradually. So the game is not, you're not running around like a headless chicken trying to survive. It's more controlled gameplay. So I think that's a good thing, isn't it, sir? In terms
yes, I would totally agree with you on that. I'm not a huge fan of the way that the game is currently. Most RPGs, you don't just drop from 100 to 0 instantly. But in Diablo 3, you definitely can. And if you don't have a lot of funds, actually farming an MP10, with gear like that is actually going to be kind of more efficient for you instead of getting like those ton of survivability stats if you can't afford them.
Exactly.
So they're currently gearing out for damage, but they kind of want to change that to where you actually have to balance your character. So I definitely like that.
Good point. And our friend here, Mr. Wise Wolf in the chat, is making an awesome point. You play the game to have fun. I so very much agree with you. If they make a little change, just go with it. It's going to work for you. So I like that. He says the important thing is have fun and adapt. Exactly. I completely agree with you. If they make a little gameplay change, just get used to it. And I'll show you just in a second of how you can survive with no lifesteal and all. But moving on further to the next thing, which is another biggie, sir, and I'd love to have your thoughts because you're a pro barb. They're actually making nerfs to the whirlwind barb. So, ooh, that's a big topic. CM Wizard out of the window. You can't do that. Nirvana Monk, bye-bye. Shadow Power Demon Hunter, we'll see you later, I guess. It's only in a way that our awesome friend Witch Doctor hasn't seen any nerf, just because the builds kind of work okay for him. But again, a big uproar in the community is about the Whirlwind Barbs and CM Wizards. What do you think about that, sir? Is that going to be a problem, or do you think there are alternative ways to survive? Or not survive, actually play the game is what I'm trying to say. So what do you think about that, sir?
I think that I'm not super happy that they're taking all these builds away, but I can understand it. Like the CM Wizard perma-freezing everything, that's very overpowered, especially if you're fighting some big bosses or something like that. Or I can see why they're nerfing the Whirlwind Barb. Now, I don't know why they're nerfing the Whirlwind Barb, but they needed to kind of nerf Wrath the Berserker. The Whirlwind Barb has been like a staple since, well, not Diablo 1, but since Diablo 1's unofficial expansion, which was the Hellfire.
Definitely.
Like Whirlwind Barb it's just kind of been his thing, and it definitely got really huge in Diablo 2. So, but they've changed quite a few things, and the game is still really good. So I'm just gonna hope that they know what they're doing and leave it at that, I guess.
It should be fine. So to me, these builds were kind of a gimmick. But since we talked about, okay, these are being nerfed, and absolutely, in a way, I'll say, oh man, why are they nerfing it? But on the other hand, we just talked about this before we started doing this talk, really, that what about the Earthquake set for Barbarian? What about that awesome Call of the Ancient set for Barbarian? So even though Barb has 3, very strong damage dealing skills. Same thing goes for Monk, really. You have 7-sided strike, you have that bell, and you also have the lashing tail kick. Same thing goes for Barb. It has 3 really heavy damage dealing skills. Right now, if you see someone running Call of the Ancients Barb, they're probably going to say, I mean, are you new to the game? Are you okay? And same thing goes for Earthquake. They'll be like, what are you trying to do? Maybe you're doing a crypt run. They'll say, okay. But right now, you would not see that. So what about those sets? And the same thing applies for other classes, like, Monk getting certain sets, Demon Hunter getting certain sets, but mainly about Barbarian. What do you think about that? So do you think that'll be a viable choice, Mr. Chrome, when they take away the so-called Whirlwind Barbarian, the Rat of the Berserker Barb? Because those 2 skills are amazing in my opinion, and I think if they do something with it, it's going to be awesome, right?
Yeah, I think they're going to do something with it, or there will be a slight uproar. Now, we can't just forget that we're not just going to be using our skills to build our build, I guess, technically, or to, the skill selection. What?
No, it makes sense. So,
what was the question?
No, that's fine. Hey, come on. It has to be unofficial. I do this 100 times at least. So what I'm trying to say is, if the Whirlwind Barb goes away, do you think like the Call of the Ancients and the other Earthquake set, are they going to be competitive enough? Because right now in the streams, I mean, they look amazing. There's I think one of the sets, help me out here guys, is a set for Barb, I don't know the name, I think it's just called the Earthquake set because they haven't given it a name, that every time you use a leap attack, you just cause an earthquake, and you can just hop around like a little bunny like a barbarian. Earlier barbarians were a ballerina, I was joking about this, and now there are these bunnies who hop around from place to place, and every time they land, they cause a massive earthquake, and that thing does about 2,000 weapon damage. So the question is, in a way, sir, that do you think that'll be a cool thing? Because I think it will be, even though they're taking away the existing builds, they're adding more variety to the so-called characters, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. I know there's an Earthquake Barb build that's going around right now. Manor Cookie featured it recently. It's called like the Freeze Barb or whatever, and it allows you to leap 3 times within 10 seconds.
Wow, okay.
You can use the freeze rune on your Earthquake, so that way you can pretty much just freeze everything, and you can do it 3 times every 10 seconds with your leap ability. I think that's definitely something that's going to be pretty interesting.
All right, yeah.
That's
so again,
I want to try out for myself. That's for sure.
Yeah, we will soon. Soon. Can't wait for Reaper of Souls to come out. So yeah, basically, and the same thing goes for Monk, right? Even though Nirvana is going away, there are so many skills that have been buffed, and I guess I am going to be sad about just one skill, so I'd love to have your opinion. I love everything they've done with Monk. I like to believe that since the very first time Monk came out in D3, and to the subsequent patches we've seen, Monk has gotten better and better with every single patch. Even though they nerfed the so-called Seize the Initiative, I think that was still a good idea. But, right now, they are actually, Nirvana is going away, but their buff skills like, you know, what's the thing called? Sorry, Lashing Tail Kick. Also, Bell is getting an upgrade in a way. You don't do knockback, so in my eyes, it's still an upgrade. Seven-sided Strike, woof. Talk about dealing damage, that's getting higher. But my only silly concern is with Dashing Strike. It's my favorite rune of all time. I almost use it in every class, most builds I make, because I always say it's actually a smart monk Serenity. A new monk will always use things like Serenity to survive, but a pro monk will actually use Dashing Strike. So they're nerfing that in a way you have charges. What do you feel about that, sir? Do you think that's cool, or is that just me crying? It probably is just me crying.
No, I think being able to hop around the map is definitely something that kind of makes the game a little more entertaining, kind of makes it a little bit faster paced. Now, I see kind of why they're doing that, because they're changing the way that the game works and everything in terms of how much damage you take and everything, and they kind of want to make it like you found this group of mobs, now you want to fight them till the battle's over and then make it to the next group and not just be hopping around from one place to the next. But, I mean, when you look at what they did with the Crusader and they gave him the charging, I forget what they call the ability, but he hops on his steed and he just starts moving at like 70%. Yeah, he starts moving at like 70% move speed and everything. So I don't know. I haven't heard about the nerf or anything in exactly what they did to the monk. So, but if they nerfed it too much, yeah, I don't think that's.
Yeah, basically what you're saying is suck it up, guys. I mean, the monk's getting so many buffs. If an idiot like me is not happy that you're just getting one so-called nerf, in my eyes it might not be a nerf at all, then, you know, it's okay, because other skills are going to be really, really awesome, you know. So I think it's awesome at the end of the time that, you know, new builds are coming up. Even, of course, we have a new character coming in. All these changes are for the good in my way, and I think the end game for me personally is going to be finding new builds, you know. I just showed you right now, guys, by the way, just to slightly go back to the old topic. We talked about, you know, life per spirit spend, how to survive. This monk has 19k damage, 9 crit chance, the worst monk you can find, you know. It has some spirit regeneration, by some I mean quite a lot actually, 7.8, and all I did was I cast my skills in a way that I was surviving on MP10 with such low damage, and all I had was life per spirit spend. I have roughly about 200 life per spirit spend, and it's going to be even more in Reaper of Souls. So you saw, you know, even right now you can survive with this kind of stats, so don't worry about it in the future. The point is, new character is coming, existing characters are getting so many buffs. The gameplay is just going to be fun, and you also have so many cool legendaries to find. So the end game, I think, for me personally would be to not to just, you know, farm an item and get that higher damage, but it's going to be to find all different items. Right now, Madstone is useless. You know, the other, only Ina's Helm is, I guess, okay for a monk. Everything else is useless. But maybe in Reaper of Souls, every item you find has its own place. So what do you think about that, sir? Like, legendaries being actually something that promotes the builds, you know? Some builds are actually completely influenced by legendaries in a way that if you don't use that legendary, a build's not going to work at all. But the more interesting one, in my opinion, are the one that can already supplement a good build. So any thoughts on that, sir? Like the kind of items we're seeing, any good examples you've seen so far of new items that are pretty cool in Reaper of Souls? So what do you think?
I don't have any real examples or anything, but I have seen quite a bit of what they're doing, and they are basically, like you said, they're making you use some certain gear pieces to actually create the build that you want to use. I think that's kind of good, because Diablo 3 has always been about the item hunt, and if you're actually like, I saw this guy with this pair of gloves, I didn't even know they existed, and that's going to be perfect for what I was trying to do, or the way I was trying to build my character or whatever. I think that's going to be something really exciting to go out and actually hunt and need to find them to create your build.
Yeah, so and what about, since we haven't talked about another big thing, which is the cool thing, I think, what about Crusader? I know you played Diablo 2, so what do you think about the so-called Paladin version 2 returning into the game? Are you excited about Crusader? Are you going to use that character, or are you going to try it out and then see how it goes? What are your thoughts on Crusader, basically? What do you think? Is it an awesome addition to the game, or maybe they should have done something else?
No, I'm pretty happy about it. I actually told my buddy that we were doing this podcast here, and I know he's listening, and he probably just jumped out of his chair because you said Paladin, because he was very sad when the Paladin was not put into the game, and so to have the Crusader put in there, I know that's going to be a really fun thing for a lot of people, and I'm actually looking into it as well. The Crusader is going to be strength based. I do play Barbarian, so I'm already kind of gearing up my
You're-
Crusader currently.
See, yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's a good point as well, because I think that's the room they required, and we'll talk about this in the other podcast, guys. It was we used to do it a lot during my normal Twitch streams, by the way. That Diablo needed a strength-based character. You can clearly see that all the characters we have in the game right now, there's 2 of each. There's 2 of intelligence, there's 2 of dexterity character. Barbarian was alone. He was holding his own, don't get me wrong. He's a very strong character, but in terms of item prices, which is not going to be an issue later on, but in just terms of items that you can find that are useful, strength items, other 5 classes don't have a use for it, whereas if you find a dex item, 2 classes have use for it and the others don't. So in that way, a strength character was needed. So we had a few choices, and I think we talked a lot about this, of what character could have been added in Reaper of Souls. And of course, Paladin, we always said that Paladin is on top of our list, but we also had another character called the Druid. So, sir, again, it's not happened yet, but in the hypothetical universe, if you were given the choice to turn back time, what character would you have in Diablo 3, Mr. Chrome? Would you like to bring Druid back rather than Crusader? Are you happy with it? Or what do you think about Druid in general? Because he too is a strength character, and he could very well fit in the lore, he could fit in the game, the itemization, everything. So I think we missed out on Druid, but do you think, you know, we can... that's a viable thing, or is it something, you know, you kind of missed that it's not been added in the game? Your thoughts on it, sir?
I would say that I'm happier that the Crusader / Paladin is coming into the game, and I think that's kind of why he is, just because there was the uproar when he wasn't released in the vanilla game and everything.
Exactly.
Now, I do think that the Druid could actually be a good addition. I actually kind of thought that myself, if they were going to take a Diablo 2 character who would fit best. And we don't really have any type of shapeshifters or anything like that in the game. So I think that would actually fit a little bit better, but I don't know if I would have wanted it more, just as I was a pretty big Paladin fan in Diablo 2.
Oh yeah, so I'm with you. It was a great character. The Hamadin, right? I mean, who can forget a Hamadin? So,
yeah, that's right.
So good times. But anyways, guys, this is our Diablo talk mainly. We're going to talk a lot about it in the next podcast. We're going to move on. We're still going to keep Mr. Chrome here. So, yeah, we're going to still bother him with questions. And I'll thank him again for joining us. But yeah, guys, do check out Mr. Chrome's channel and, of course, my channel. We both post in-depth analysis about this. And, sir, I think we should give out a little spoiler now. We have something planned for our awesome viewers, don't we?
We do.
So again, yeah, of course, I guess you can give the title what we're aiming for. Do you want to tell them what we're working? So it's going to be a co-op video, guys, which is going to go both on my channel and on Mr. Chrome's channel. And it's a guide about what, sir? Please take it from there.
It's going to be a guide on crypt runs. You know, it's basically the fastest way to Paragon level currently, and it's taking experience into Reaper of Souls is going to be one of the most advantageous things that players are saying currently. The experience that you're going to be gaining when the expansion does come out does seem like it's slightly less per hour.
Yep.
So to get your Paragon levels up now is actually going to be a very good thing to do.
And we give you not just, hey, okay, because most people know, I think we should clarify like what the crypt run would be. It's not just going to be, hey guys, that's how you go to a crypt. This is we're going to give you from start to the end what kind of characters suit the best for what kind of crypt run. How you can get the max amount of XP per hour, because we are aiming for over 400 million XP an hour. We're going to show you what character does what part, what skills to use more importantly, and also what skills to avoid, because, you know, a barbarian is good. A barbarian with hammers in crypt, just to give a little spoiler. We can do better. A monk with bells is awesome normally. A monk in crypt with bells is a no-no. So we're gonna give you a complete rundown from beginning to end. We'll explain to you how the thing goes. And I think we've given these guys a lot of spoiler now. So I think what we're gonna do now is we're gonna move away from Diablo talk. Mr. Chrome is gonna be here, but we're gonna invite a new friend of ours. Well, not new friend. I think he's new to the podcast, but you guys know him. He's been talking in the chat a long time. He's one of my best friends. And he is very, very big on lores. He's one of the main guys I asked about barbarians as well. But this time we're going to bring him to something different. We talk about these fancy things. So, you know, when I'm done streaming and we're playing games of Dota, I'll invite him over and we just talk about the most random things on the planet. And it got asked me a question about the ancient aliens in a message of mine randomly on YouTube. So I'm going to invite him for that talk. We're going to talk about ancient aliens now. So no Diablo talk, guys, but a hypothetical scenario. Were they real? Were they not? But we'll let our main man Raeezzy take it from here. So I'm going to add him to the call. And let's see if he's here. He might not even be here. So do expect awesomeness just about in a few seconds. Here we go. I'm calling Mr. Raeezzy right now.
Hello.
Hello, Raeezzy. How you doing, my friend?
Good, man. How are you?
Okay, thank you. So, Raeezzy, you know, of course, Mr. Chrome.
Yeah, of course I do.
Yeah, there we go. So, guys, question, Mr. Chrome, are you both ready? We're going to take it to Raeezzy first, and then we're going to...
Wait, are we going to talk about the Jamaican bobsleigh team?
Okay, what is that? I have no idea.
Oh, come on, guys. This is big news. Jamaican bobsleigh team. They can qualify for the Sochi Winter Olympics, but they need the money. So let's all get together and donate that 80 grand that they need.
Alright, sure, why not?
You can live out cool runnings in real life.
Remember, guys, I just said a few seconds ago that we just talk about the most random things on planet. Here's a good example. We were... But yeah, please, let's support the Jamaican team. But later on, I guess we'll do that. But Raeezzy, my friend, the question for you is, and I'll set the scenario. We're not going to go too sciencey on it. But the question is, do you think the concept of ancient aliens, do you believe that there was a race before us that existed and they have something to do with the way we are right now? Now, I'm not talking about God. I'm not even talking about them creating us, because that's another different topic, I guess. I am just talking about the possibility of ancient alien beings visiting our home planet some point in the past. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't see why not. There's so much, like, ancient knowledge that we don't know about yet, so why couldn't there be like someone that taught them?
Okay,
I
just
mean,
Raeezzy,
to be honest, someone has to have taught them, the Jamaicans, how to bobsleigh, so that's one thing, right? We need to discuss where did they learn this?
Yeah, how did they learn this? Where did the arts come from? Raeezzy, keep in mind the audio in the background, man. Yeah, if you can, sit in there.
Right, yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, so to ask Mr. Chrome, so what do you? And I'll set the mood after this. I just want to get someone's initial thoughts. I just want to test the waters, basically, guys. So what do you think about? Is there a slim possibility that we was at some point in the past visited by beings from another planet, and they have something to do with the way we are right now? Excluding the fact about the whole Jamaican bobsleigh team, because I have no idea what Raeezzy is talking about. So what are your thoughts on that, sir?
I like to think of myself as a semi-open-minded guy. If they're there, I haven't seen them. That's kind of my stance on that.
But okay, so you're not against the simple fact that, hey, maybe there could be life outside Earth, right? Maybe.
Yeah, I would never tell anybody that there couldn't be, because I can't prove it.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a good way to look at it. So, okay, guys, let me delve off into a little bit more into this. And do stop me, guys. I know Raeezzy is going to do that awesome job. If I talk too much, Raeezzy is going to be like, shut up, Hermit. You'll see it in a minute. So, basically, to set the whole mood up, right, guys, there are two things. There's a thing about the science knowledge where if an alien being outside the Earth could exist. And that, I think, is very possible. But before I say that, let me make a little, I guess... I should tell you about myself. Why am I eligible to talk about this in a way, I guess. I do science as a living. I am actually trying to be a scientist, believe it or not. Can you believe it? A guy who writes silly poems on YouTube actually is, studying to become a scientist. I'm going to finish my PhD hopefully this year. I'll tell you all about it, guys, on the channel. But all I'm trying to say is I know a little bit, a thing or two about science and the way things are. And just to put things into perspective, the size of our universe, the size, the vast knowledge it has, simply, again, going back to the size, like the size of it is so big that for us to imagine that a tiny little planet, a speck of a planet on the face of this vast ocean, first of all, our star is, so I'm not even explaining it well, am I? Okay, let me start over again. In the vast universe, which we think about to be 15 to 16 billion years old, and it's ever expanding, as we can all tell, every moment, every breath we take, our universe is getting bigger and bigger. Bigger to a point where the moment I say, hey, I think the universe is, for example, 5 billion miles in diameter, the moment you finish that sentence, the universe has already expanded. So the size is getting bigger and bigger. And the matter it contains is pretty vast. Most of it we can't even see, but the matter we do see, we see a simple fact. We live in a solar system, we have one sun around us, and we have so many planets, and on those planets there's only one planet with life. And you'll think, life is pretty precious. It is very precious, because out of all the planets we see around us on our solar system, there's only one planet that can sustain that life. But the other point we're not looking into is how big the universe is. It's ever expanding to a rate where we probably don't even account for the 0.000, and I can put probably 50, 60 zeros after that, 1% of the whole matter of the universe. The Earth is absolutely nothing. Even our sun, when compared to the vastness that is out there, is nothing. To call it nothing is actually to say, hey, it's too big. It's even less than nothing, if there is such a thing like that, speaking in technical terms. So in that vast of a universe where things happen on a random basis, at least we call it random to a point because we can't understand it, but life existed on Earth not because of something special, not because, if you believe in God, that's fine as well, but I don't personally, and not in the standard way of the God could have been. Life was created on this Earth, and certain scenarios happened which led to life being created. We have theory of evolution to prove that. Even before that, how the first being was created, we all came from same ancestor, yada yada yada. But the point is, life on Earth, the more we read about it, yes, of course, it's very special, but the chance of it happening, when compared to the vastness of the universe, it could very well happen anywhere else in the universe. The size is so big that the probability of the same scenario happening, you know, it could very well be a viable case. Even if it's something like 1 in a billion chance, the universe is full of billions of sun. Our galaxy own has quite a few, you know, stars, as you can all tell. It's 100,000 light years wide to 20,000 light years, you know, bro, something like that, something crazy, or 20. I'm not sure about the numbers exactly. Basically, the space is so large, it's filled with stars, and stars are filled with planets. So the point is, life could have existed somewhere out there, and it can. The question is, it could have. But as a scientist, and I'm trying to study, we go with the facts. We go with simple probabilities that in such a vast universe, where we see the life evolved from a simple atom, we had all these things going on as time went by. Environment had a big factor with it. Temperature had a big factor. But this thing could have very well existed somewhere else out there. So to say the fact that aliens could be out there is I think is very true. Now, by aliens, I don't mean people with two eyes and nose, ears, and all that good stuff. Really, no, I don't mean that. I mean life could even be in the microbial form, and it could be in a form that we can't even comprehend. And again, to go into that is another big fantasy topic on its own. So what I'm trying to say is, life, in my humble opinion, and I don't know what you guys think, I'd love to know your opinion, is it could definitely exist outside our Earth as we speak right now, because of the size, the sheer size of the universe, and the way there's a standard pattern to how life evolves. As we can actually trace our own life, we can tell, hey, the Earth was hot, then it got colder, the whole ice age came by, slowly we had this ocean, we had beings, you know, because of cosmic rays, all that good stuff. I'm not going to go into that, but basically I'm trying to say is you had a standard set of steps that you follow when you try to get to a life. And to find water outside our solar system, we've already found quite a few planets. The problem is to find the one that's the right size, the right temperature, the right distance from sun, yada yada yada. But we haven't looked far enough. The universe could be so very wide. So to going back to the question of ancient aliens, yes, I definitely believe in aliens, and I definitely believe that they could even be ancient, and by ancient I mean they could have existed before our time. But the question is whether they could have traveled all the way from wherever they are in the world to where we are right now. Is this something possible? So Raeezzy, I guess I'm gonna put the question back to you again. If the universe is so vast, and as we look around ourselves, the nearest star, for example, is Proxima Centauri, and even that we don't know has a planet. I think it has a star, has quite a few planets, and it may or may not have life. We'll keep looking around 50, 60 light year around us, but the universe is, we don't even know how many light years big. So do you think that there is chance of life outside, even right now, that could have evolved before we humans did? What do you think, mate?
Yeah, man, definitely. I mean, we're talking about aliens, right? We're talking about like vast, like, distances in time and space. These people, they ain't gonna be coming on like a 67 Ford Mustang. They got like a proper ship and shit, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're gonna be going fast, so, you know, what is a distance to us might not seem distance to them. And I'm not even into this whole, like, you know, I got, you know, all that, you know, you see all these things on the news and stuff about these people that got anally probed and shit.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. Hey, we have to keep it 18 plus, Raeezzy. This is gonna go on YouTube, or we're gonna get flagged.
Oh, it's alright, man. It's your channel. I don't mind if it gets flagged. Yeah.
You heard that,
yeah.
Mr. Chrome. Never invite him on a podcast, yeah?
Never.
Yeah.
I'm dangerous. I'm dangerous. But yeah, it's like you know, like all these crazy people, like, you know, they claim that all this stuff happened to them. I'm not one of them, but I'm just thinking the place is so large. There's got to be someone.
There has to be
and
something
then,
out
yeah,
there.
I mean, you look on history and stuff, and there's all these like references to Skymen and all this stuff, and you can't just be like, oh,
Definitely,
They're
definitely.
chatting out their ass. You know, something obviously it came from somewhere. There's no smoke without fire.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think about that, sir? So the same question for you again is the size of the universe. That's all we're going by right now, is that the sheer vastness, and maybe we are not looking far enough, because the universe in its almighty wisdom, even at this very moment, if we cease to exist, if for, you know, one snap of a finger, it could be an alien or God, whichever you believe in, if they decide in their wide wisdom to wipe off this earth, the universe would not even feel a scratch. It's, you know, it's just the way the universe, there's so much out there, there's so many planets that we in a way are insignificant. Of course, the things we do, the choices that we make, and that's another philosophical question, and you see that all in my poems, by the way. That's something different. But in terms of completely scientific fact, the universe would not care less if we cease to exist. So in a universe that vast and that wide, do you think, sir, Mr. Chrome, that there might be life outside that is actually smarter than us? Are you here, sir? Ah, he's thinking.
Okay. Yes, I am here. That is a very interesting question. I feel like I'm listening to the History Channel right now.
Which is not done properly, because we're talking about some horrible, you know, behind things. But please, yeah, carry on, sir.
Yeah. I don't have a ton of input. But,
no, that's fine.
You know, I think it's something that, yeah, it could be. You know, like I said, I can't prove that it's not out there, but, you know. I can't prove that it is there either.
So you're keeping an open mind. See, that's the most important thing. You're not saying that, hey, come on, we are the only one out there and anything. Because I think that is just rude. That's plain rude in my opinion. To think that you are the only living beings out there is kind of, you know, dodgy. And I just read our awesome comment from our friend here, which is Mr. Radonas, and he said, you know, I think it's very likely that there is intelligence life out there which will be reasonably similar to us, within reason. And that's an important point, which we're going to get to. So, Raeezzy, we're going to get to the whole people thing. And sir, Mr. Chrome, I would love to have your opinion on that. And that's about people who give, you know, these so-called, you know, proofs that say, hey man, I was kidnapped by the aliens and this happened. We're going to get, because that's something completely different. Right now, we're kind of looking into a very geeky, scientifically way, you know. Forget all the people, forget all what they say. We're looking into the so-called facts that are out there. They're not completely out there. You kind of have to read between the lines. So yeah, Raeezzy, what do you think about the other question is, if aliens exist and if they are smart, do you think that they're going to be actually similar to us? Are they going to have similar features? Now, I'm not saying again the same eyes. Maybe like the little green men. I guess that's where I'm going, Raeezzy. The little green men, we all know, short people, big heads, big dark eyes, very small limbs, very small legs. You know what I'm saying, Raeezzy. What do you think about that, mate? So do you think aliens are going to be similar looking to us, or they could pretty much be anything?
No, man, you got to think, right? Because if you follow the theory of evolution, then you go, people grow according to their surroundings. Now, unless there's a planet that's identical to this one, which is possible,
definitely, yes.
Unless there is, they would have some, you know, differences. I mean, like, I'm not a big Trekkie, but I like Star Trek, and you know, they got like the Klingons and all these different races.
Yeah.
They're pretty much the same.
They are humanoid race. You would call them humanoids.
Exactly.
Very important point there, yeah.
They're bipedal, and you know they've got the same kind of internal organs and shit. But the difference is their structures are stronger, or they're weaker, or they're
depending on the place they grow in, right? Depending on the environment they grow in. Right, that's an important point. And since we're gamers, most of you must have heard of a game called Mass Effect. I think that's a fascinating game to play, not just because the gameplay is fun, but because it also shows the same idea we're talking about, of how aliens, if they exist in our galaxy, they might be something humanoid-like. But let me throw a wrench in that plan, really. So do help, do answer these questions, and please feel free to jump in, guys. Raeezzy and Mr. Chrome, if you please want to say. The point is, we talk about life being human-like, and that's another thing, I think, which we kind of are narrow-minded in a way. Now, of course, Raeezzy said that there could be. He didn't say that there is. So what I'm trying to say here, let me go into a different tangent, is we all are made of carbon. The very basis form of our life, we are all made of carbon atoms. Anything you see on this planet, the basic skeletal structure, and my research, actually, believe it or not, is actually very closely in this field, which I'm going to tell you some other time, but our skeletal structure, our DNA, all of that is carbon-based. Life on Earth is based on carbon. But what if life on some other planet would be based on elements like silicon, based on elements like nitrogen? Wouldn't that change the whole scenario completely? Because why carbon is so special, and I'm not going to go into too much details again, because carbon has the ability to bond with itself. Carbon can make long chains. Carbon has the ability to interact with other elements and form stronger bonds. one of them very, like, this is again, I'm kind of dumbing it down, and I apologize just to keep it all short. So, but basically, carbon has this beautiful ability to do certain kind of bonding things. But we know if you look at the periodic table, there are other elements which are very much similar to carbon, silicon being one of them. Why? Look at the phone you have right now. Look at the TV you're sitting in front of, or the computer. All of that technology is made possible because the skeletal structure there is made of silicon. And I'm not saying that we were going to have some kind of robots out there in some part of the universe. Maybe there could be, I don't know. But the point is, Raeezzy, do you think that life could be made from different elements as well? So, and if that's the case, then life would be completely different. Life could be existing in the upper atmosphere of a gas giant like a Jupiter. You could have a planet where you have beings like balloons. And this is, again, there's a TV show called 95 Words and Counting. It's an old Discovery program I saw a while ago, probably 6-7 years ago. And that's where they showed if a planet has life based on certain elements like helium and nitrogen, where that gas is lighter and it goes up higher in the atmosphere, and if life were to evolve, the life would not look like humans. It's basically going to look like the little balloons you give to the kids. They're going to be floating in the air, so something like a jellyfish, but that the main part of the jellyfish would be filled with gas, which allows it to float. Strange idea, right? You're like, what the heck are you talking about, Hermit? But just bear with me. All I'm trying to say is we are all made of carbon, but what if some alien out there, maybe not in our galaxy, maybe in a galaxy far, far away, going into that reference, what do you think about that, Raeezzy? Could that be possible as well? And what do you think the kind of aliens that could exist? And again, please use your imagination by all means, because that's all we can do, you know. It's all about imagination now. Any ideas?
Dude, I mean, well, aliens, right? Who the hell knows? Like, they could be anything. Like,
that's a good answer as any.
We could be. I mean, the aliens could be as different from us as single-celled amoebas to us. So, I mean, they could be like some, you know, they could be dinosaurs, you know, like some 75-foot tall beasts and shit. So, sorry. So, you know, it's like, I don't know, man. This is going too crazy, man. If I had that kind of intelligence, creativity, I'd be a writer, not a flipping.
No, but I'd see that, and that's why we love Raeezzy, guys. A guy honest to his core. So, Sir, Mr. Core Expert Gaming, would you like to say something, or am I just going on? Shall I carry on with my silly talk?
I think you're doing a pretty good job, but yeah, I mean, I totally agree. If there was some form of life, you know, kind of like what exactly you call life, you know, life is matter and everything.
Exactly, the most important question.
So,
yeah, please carry on.
Yeah, I mean, I could see where it's just like a gas blob or something like that, you know.
Yeah,
You got my imagination going.
Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah, take a gas blob up a little. So you'll be talking to jellyfish when you go to that, you know, the so-called world. And
oh no, he's full under Wise Wolf. Wise Wolf's been talking about farts for the past 25 minutes.
Ah, okay.
And now Mr. Chrome's gone on the same idea.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I can see that. Yes,
yeah.
That is right.
So Mr. Yarlith is making a good point there. He says, of course, human evolution shows that as different adaptations are necessary, even just to ones as simple as weather, yeah, absolutely right. Everything for a human life is not human life, any kind of life is affected by the environment it lives in. So, and where I'm going with this, with the whole idea of aliens, so in case you're not following, guys, and I'm rambling a lot, and that's why I'm saying you don't following, because I just go on tangents. We are talking about the different types of aliens that could very well exist in our world, you know. So don't just look for and by world I mean universe. Don't just look for humanoid-like beings, look for beings that could be completely drastically different, because for now, we look for life in a way. A life has to have oxygen, a life has to have water, a life has to have carbon in it, and that's how we are looking at life. So if you talk to the good folks at SETI, which is not like really good funded right now these days, by the way, it's an American program called Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. They look for beings, signals out there for beings that, you know, can talk back. And if we talk about aliens again, I'm sure the very first thing that came to your mind was Little Green Men, or something you saw in a very recent film or something. But what if the aliens are completely different? What if we find alien on a planet like Mercury? And I'm not saying we're going to find it here on Mercury, because we know we don't have anything there. We've sent probes. But what if a planet far, far away is so close to the sun, but it has some kind of atmosphere because the sun was not able to burn it off? Maybe the atmosphere was made of, rather than water, it was made of liquid, so maybe for methane or something like that. And in that case, the beings would exist on the surface of the Earth. They will have very, very high resilience to cosmic rays. A human, if you take us to space, partly if you could even breathe in the space outside, we wouldn't be able to, because the cosmic rays are simply going to mutate our cells to a point we will die very, very quickly, and a painful death. But what if certain organisms, and I don't even have to go far, because Ray's made a good point about amoeba. Amoebas are these creatures that exist on the planet. They're very simple forms of life, but to call amoeba something Earth-like is not making sense. You can compare chimps to humans in a way, you can compare giraffes to humans, you can compare ants to humans in a way that they do that, but you can't compare an amoeba because the way it lives, it doesn't even, some of the amoebas are anaerobic, which means they don't even use oxygen to breathe in. Other little microbes we've seen that survive actually at the very depths of our ocean, where you have lots of lava floating around. There's no oxygen there, there is no light there, and all these little microbes, they survive. They don't survive, they thrive, they're having a good time. So what if there was a world out there where all these microbes had enough time to survive, which they are doing right now on our planet, but they also had time to evolve? Going back to our friend's point here, as the gentleman made earlier, Mr. Yalit, environment plays a big role. And if that's the case, if that single-celled organism could develop into something big, who knows how they're going to look like? And then to even, maybe we wouldn't even be able to comprehend them. Maybe it's just going to be a big chunk of rock, and it's going to talk in ways that we wouldn't even know. Maybe the mode of communication would be a high frequency of sound, which we can't hear. So, you know, it could be pretty much anything. But to going back to this now, and this is where I want Raeezzy's input, as he said, this is how I think aliens could be out there. But the simple fact the science tells you that the further away they are, the more distance they have to travel. And if that's the case, then they really have to have some super advanced technology. We can talk about Star Trek warp drives and all that stuff, but basically you need some kind of interstellar travel that is faster than the speed of light. Theoretically, you can't go faster than speed of light because of, we all know about relativity and E equals mc squared, but there might be other ways around it. I don't know. If I knew, I'd probably get a Nobel Prize. I'm sure you all would. But the point I'm trying to make is the further away an alien species is, the longer it's going to take for it to come close to us. And if that is the case, then do you think, Raeezzy, now this is where the big question of ancient alien comes in, and Sir, Mr. Chrome as well. Now all these problems at hand where they have to travel all the vast distances from us, which means it's not just about them being advanced, but them being super advanced to a point where they develop these ships and they travel all the way from there. So what do you think, Raeezzy? With that in mind, since we've established the whole idea of an alien, do you think that we were ever visited by aliens? And since you talked about like, you know, good examples of history, do you want to give some good, like, specific examples of what could kind of somewhat give a proof, not a proof, at least give us, you know, food for our thought to think us about that maybe aliens do exist? Any idea on that, Raeezzy? So what kind of...
Yeah, man, there's, like, most of my knowledge about this comes from that Discovery program.
Well, the same goes for every one of us, yeah.
And they've had a couple things on there now. Obviously, I haven't done my research to see if these are true or whatever, but so I'm just gonna say them anyway. But it was like you know, there's like these perfectly round stones somewhere in the world that you know that there's no way that could have been created. Then there's, you know, the types of architecture that went into the pyramids and shit. And then there's, you know, that terrible Indiana Jones film, The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Oh, I know you hate that film.
Oh my god, yeah. But the crystal skulls are real, right? So there's that, and then there's they found all these obelisks in random places, and now they've dug them up and they find that they're representations of human form and shit. So there's so much, and also like cave paintings, man. You know, of like UFOs.
Yeah, very
and
good
stuff.
point. Yeah.
So I mean.
So Raeezzy, I know you're from India, right? So you know a thing called Viman as they're called.
Yeah, exactly.
So what about that? That's another, guys. You can Google the
Yeah,
word.
man, that's nuts, man. Because like, the thing about India is because it's got like 25, 35, 40,000 years of history that you know we don't hear about, right? And within those, there's several like Hindu books called the Mahabharata and the Vimanas and stuff, and they're like a history of India, sort of. But the thing is, people they took it as myths and legends, and they kind of been marginalized.
Exactly, that's what we're going
to
do.
And they become religious books, but they weren't. Technically, when they started, they were historical documents.
Yeah.
And then they got some crazy shit in there with people with some ridiculous powers. I mean, nowadays it's possible because nowadays we have the technology, right? But in those times, yeah, it would have been seen as a miracle.
Absolutely.
Like you know, there's so many things like nowadays that we can do through technology that in the olden days would have been seen as witchcraft or miracles.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
You
I don't see why not.
take a
man.
telephone back in the days, you talk to someone, that's just gonna scare the heck out of,
Oh yeah, man. Look, you just go to Pearl Harbor. You call up the president and go, listen, bro. I see some Japanese planes that are coming towards Pearl Harbor. Yeah, you might need to pay attention to that shit. And he's like, oh, all right, safe, man.
Yeah.
And then bang.
Yeah, there we go.
Whole history changes.
There was no.
I call up Adolf Hitler. I say, listen, bro, don't start this here, because what's gonna happen is in 10 years you're gonna get banged up by these Americans and English soldiers. And he's like, oh, okay, thank you. And that's it. Like, what changes?
Yeah, so basically that's
No,
a very
forget that. I go to flipping. What's it? Genghis Khan. I stand here in front of him with the AK-47.
Yeah.
I'm destroying his army, bro.
Yeah,
You know, world changes. Technology changes the world. That's just
exactly.
how it is.
So to ask Mr. Chrome then, sir, what basically we're going for is references from olden times, kind of, whether these things could have existed. So anything, what do you think about the pyramids, sir? Any thoughts on that? Do you think that's something pretty, interesting or not, maybe? Like how the pyramids were made. There's so many myths about them. So what do you think in general? That's all I want to know. So
Yeah, that's kind of what I've always heard people talk about is the pyramids and everything, because they are, I think they're within like a tenth of a degree of being like perfectly level.
Exactly, very important
No.
point there, sir. Please carry on. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I work in like construction for building homes and everything, and I've seen the work that gets done, and I don't even think they're within like a tenth of a percent of level.
Thank
when
you
they're building
so
a
much
home.
for being here. I so wanted to ask a question. Sorry, sir. I'm just going to fill in. I'm going to cut in. But I have big questions for you. So our friend here, Mr. Chrome, he's a big construction guy. He does a lot of construction. So he knows a thing about structures. I've got an engineering degree, but I can't talk anything about structures. I can talk about setting up wires. But we have a actual professional here. So I'll explain to our awesome audience. Now we're going back to our friend Raeezzy just talked about India and all these instances in the old books where they talk about these great battles where the so-called gods had weapon to could actually destroy the entire earth. They were called Brahmastra, which means Brahma means the whole world, Astra means a weapon. I think I'm correct there, isn't I? I pronounced it right, Ray. So these weapons, they could actually destroy things. On the other hand, we go to Egypt now, right? You look at these structures, these amazing megalithic structures, and if you look at the pyramids, and if you do maths, you can realize they built the whole thing on golden ratio. And I'm not going to say they didn't know the facts about golden ratios. Egyptians were smart mathematicians. They had knowledge. They were one of the first mathematicians, along with Indians, to actually have this kind of knowledge. So maybe they knew it, but the point is that the size of the stones you see in the pyramids right there, right now. And again, I don't believe in the theory. I'm not even saying that aliens built them. I'm just asking a question about how pyramids were made. And the question is, the big structures you see, the big little individual stones, they're not little at all. They are probably 20 to 25 ton stones. And Tim will tell, our friend Mr. Chrome will tell you in a minute that how impossible it is, or how hard it is to lift a stone that big and actually place it somewhere. So for some reason, Egyptians had the power to bring all these stones somewhere from down south, because they brought these stones. There's a historical fact, we've actually discovered it, that the stones used to make the pyramids were actually transported about 200 kilometers from south of Egypt, and they used the river to actually transport them. So okay, we know, okay, that's how they did it. But the problem is, when we look at the research done on these pyramids, every book that we read to, every big mainstream archaeologist will tell you that pyramids were made in a span of 20 years. That's the time they give you. And if you do the math, and if you count all the stones that you see in the pyramids, and you add the number, for the pyramids to have been completed in a span of 20 years, every stone, this 20-ton stone, had to be put in place every 2 minutes. So every 2 minutes you had to place one stone on top of the other. Bear in mind the size of these stones is amazing. You can look up an image of these Giza pyramids and it'll just give you an idea of how big these stones are. You had humans working there, of course, no machinery from what we know, and they were able to do it. So Mr. Chrome, do you think it's easy to lift a 20-foot stone up there and actually place it so precisely that it follows the mathematical formula to the very dot? It is so precise that a big structural engineer right now will have a very hard time, if not an impossible time, to make an item, make a something structure like this. So what do you think about that, sir? Can you actually move these big blocks and,
Chrome can. He gets his barb out, he gets his leap attack going, and bang.
Oh, that's right.
Chrome is
Barbs all
known for
day.
this. Yeah, exactly. That's what he's gonna do. He's gonna be the next threat in the world with his earthquake set. He's gonna be jumping around throwing stones and shit at people.
There we
You
go.
don't want to mess with him. He's a core of the expert gaming.
There we go.
So you don't want to mess with this guy. So sorry. Go.
Yeah, please, sir. Do enlighten us. What do you think about that? You know, the stones being so big and how hard it is even now with our modern day cranes and all to do this. So what do you think about that, Mr. Chrome?
Yeah, it seems like you know a lot more about this than I do. I think that saying that we know that they were built over the course of 20 years is a little bold.
Yeah.
I mean, I know technology and science has come a long way, but I think when people throw out dates, they're assuming, and I think a lot of times assumptions are close, but you know, we really have no way of knowing.
Definitely not there. Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, people try to develop these crane systems that they would have used in Egyptian times and everything. Because you know, I check out the History Channel and all that. I've seen these things, and you know, they're basically just not able to do it. You know, they can't do it, or if they can do it, it's almost impossible for the terrain they're on or the time span that they're given. But you know, it's definitely something that's very. It took a lot of work either way, and also aren't they aligned with like a certain, like the North Star or something, like perfectly?
That's
something
another
like
important thing, right? They're actually celestially aligned to a point where every little movement of the stars around the pyramids, I guess around the Earth, the pyramids actually show you the right position of the right star. So they are aligned with the North Star, but they also align themselves with a constellation. The fact that Sphinx actually looks like a lion head and all that actually signifies the age, and we're not again going to go into that, but the point as Mr. Chrome is making is it is so technologically advanced for that time, the way they actually managed to build it. All this maths, all this engineering, and all this astronomical precision they actually managed to put behind it. It is pretty spectacular. So the point we're trying to make in a way is, again, we haven't even said the word that aliens made it. And I'm not even going to say that because that's something open to interpretation, right? It could be anything. But the point is, either we actually don't even understand our own history, which is the biggest point I think we're going to get out from this Ancient Aliens talk, is either we had some kind of awesome technology that got lost along the way, or either, I guess the other thing might be the answer, which could be they received help from something. I don't know. Maybe it could be anything. I guess I'm scared to use the word aliens, but maybe something, they had this help, because to build a structure like that, which is so technologically advanced in terms of the whole mechanics of it, the structure, even the science behind it, it had a purpose. It wasn't just a simple triangle in the middle of anything. So all this was accomplished by these so-called very simpleton people. So either we're not giving enough credit to our ancestors, or we just don't know the whole picture yet. And I think that's the whole thing. We don't know the whole picture yet. And that's the examples we go around the whole world, and that's what prompts us into looking, hey, so if they can't do it, which is, again, obviously, as I said, if you look into the stats and if you look into the time, even if they had 50, 100 years, that is such an impossible task for people who just had hands to do their labor and basic Bronze Age tools. You know, they didn't have the high plasma cutters you have right now. They were actually cutting big granite stones, and granite is one of the hardest rocks out there. They were able to cut them, place them perfectly, and do all that shebang in a span of whatever time. And yeah, and it's perfect to this very day. For example, Tim, help me out here. Sorry, Mr. Chrome. That if we make a structure these days, the way our structural engineers are, the building right outside your house, how long will that survive roughly? 50 years, 100 years, right? Something like that.
What are you talking about? Just like a regular
random, regular structures we so willfully make these days. The big so-called skyscrapers. If, for example, if we stop taking care of them, or if we just start moving on, how long will they actually stay stable? Not that long. We have to renovate them, isn't it, every now and then?
Exactly, yes. If you don't maintain them, things are going to basically start falling apart. Things are going to break, age.
Yeah.
It's going to take its toll, the time.
And no one repairs the pyramids, right? No one has done any kind of repairs. No one goes by. The fact of the matter is, Alexander came by, and his army actually raided the place. And people after that, the English, when they went there, I'm talking to you, Raeezzy, by the way. They actually, did not nice things to the pyramids, and they still.
Hey man, we do what we must, man. We do what we must.
Yeah, he always says that to me, guys, to make fun of me. But the point is, they've actually been abused over time, and they still stand the test of time. The best structures, believe it or not, right now, that we can say, they're going to last for a long time are not the things we make, because our buildings are pretty silly. Partly the reason, of course, is because we want to be economically sound and we don't want to spend too much money. But the structures we look around us are the old structures, the ancient structures. So the pyramids might still stay for another 100,000 years. I'm not sure about the building I'm sitting in, because, you know, it can fall. So the point is, they are very advanced structures. And maybe, I think that's where the speculation lies. Could it have been aliens who helped them? Could it have been these so-called fancy beings? I don't know, but the question does arise, and to, I guess, sum it all up in a way, the universe is so vast and so big, to think that there is no life outside Earth, in my opinion, is no, it's a bit too bold. The other thing I think is, life could be pretty much anything. It just can't, it doesn't have to be humans or humanoid beings. It could be anything, but the chance of them coming here on planet, that's where you kind of go into the speculations, and this is where really your own belief lies. But the question you kind of have to ask is, I think the answers, all of them, they do lie in your history. So no matter where you are from the world, if you look deeper into the history, you know, before the pre-Christian era, you see there are so many of our ancient history that just has been lost, that we don't know. So if we want to know whether aliens were there or not, and I'm not saying they were or weren't there, I'm just saying the question is, I guess, to explore our past a little bit more, you know, find out more about this. So maybe we are actually missing on some kind of awesome hand chisel technique that allowed people to make those pyramids. And same thing goes for Easter Islands, and we haven't even talked about those temples in Cambodia, which are so amazing and so large that humans would have had to have so much manpower and so much skill, not just manpower, to accomplish this. So I think that's our talk for ancient aliens, right, Raeezzy? I think.
Yeah, man, I think we can all safely say that from now we've all learned that aliens exist. And let's just put an end to that.
Yeah, let's just...
Aliens exist. They sometimes come on Holy Hermit's channels named as Samoy. Pretend to be French. That's all we need to know.
Yeah, and that's a very... To sum it all up, I guess, Mr. Yarlit says in the chat, those who do not learn from the past, well, you know, are doomed to repeat it. Nicely said. But anyways, I think we're going to go to a last topic, and this is some... I think, Raeezzy, we have a competitor here. We need to start a fight with Mr. Chrome here, but we'll get into that. So, sir, I think the other game you play, you enjoy very much, is League of Legends, right?
Oh yes, I'm probably currently playing that slightly more than I am Diablo 3 at the moment. Not that anybody wants to hear that, but it's true.
Shame on you, shame on you.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah, so Raeezzy and I, we play Dota, and we can't even play against bots, but I think we are fanboys, right, Raeezzy?
Yeah, man, hell, why not?
Yeah, why not?
If he likes League of Legends, then we got like the opposite thing to cause a bit of attention.
We have to, yeah, we have to go into this whole gaming thing. But anyways, that's like you know, what, Mr. I think Mr. Core Expert Gaming also. Do you make videos on League of Legends, sir? I think you do, right?
No, I mean, I did at the very start, but honestly, my League of Legends skills are probably subpar.
Hey, that's alright. Still, I mean, you love the
anybody
game,
who plays, I was Silver 1 in solo duo queue when Season 3 ended.
Alright.
So I haven't gone through my provisionals for Season 4 yet, so I don't know what I'm going to place. But we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully I can make it up to gold or something like that.
Awesome, okay. Yeah, so we play Dota, but are there any games, Raeezzy? I know you recently got a PlayStation 4, man, so any new games you're looking forward to?
On PS4, man, there's not too many releases out. I just got The Last of Us, started playing that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Epic game.
So tell us about that game, like, in a few sentences, man. What's the whole backdrop? No spoilers, by the way.
It's hard, right? Because I've got about 2.5 hours into it. So literally, I'm just getting a bit of the story where, you know, all the shit's happened and they're running away.
Alright, but who are they? Who are they? You're talking about what's happening. So what is happening? What is the scenario? Is this a... Is it like you have to explain the game, I guess? Like
it's like I don't know. It's like a zombie thing slash virus. Something's obviously come and destroyed the civilization.
So the humanity has gone. It's a post-apocalyptic game, then, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, this game, right? If you haven't played it, you really should, because, like I said, I played 2.5 hours, and it's probably one of the best games I've played, like in the last 10 years.
Yeah, most people
it's really fun, man. It's like the storyline's epic. It was, you know, The Walking Dead, the TV program.
Yeah.
It's the game is basically what the TV program should have been.
Awesome.
The game is beautiful, and yeah, I like it.
Alright.
But aside from that, there's nothing really on PS4 that's coming out. It just seems like a waste.
Fair enough. But I think there's another game you are interested in, which we talked about, and I think we should do that on our channel. I think I'm going to call it Shenanigans with Raeezzy or some title like that. And you know the game I'm talking about, right? It's GTA. Yeah. So what about that? Are you going to get that game? Because that's already out on consoles, but I think on PC we're still waiting for a release. I think. So I think we should play that.
GTA is definitely going to be GTA, right? Even if it's crap, I'll enjoy it just because it's GTA. You know, and when I was a kid, you played GTA Vice City, San Andreas, all that, and then you were like, oh my god, I just ran someone over. So, no way. So yeah, I killed him. No. So just kind of that thing. That's why Diablo was such a big thing, right? Because I remember sitting there for like 4,000 hours trying to get my paladin up to 99.
Wow.
And it just now when I play Barb, it's like I just basically still I play Diablo 3 just because Diablo 2 was so good.
So you are like a hardcore Diablo fan, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, what about you, sir? Chrome, do you play GTA? Are you a fan of the series or not really?
No, not totally. I did play Grand Theft Auto, the one that was just out before this, like 4, I do believe.
GTA 4. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I got into that. I really enjoyed the campaign. I did some of the multiplayer and everything, but it wasn't something that like kept me playing it, you know, for hundreds of hours. It was just something I played and I was kind of done. You know, but that's kind of how console games are, unless you do get into the multiplayer, like Call of Duty, you know, things like that. I've been into a few shooters here and there. So, you know, yeah, that's normally when I'm sticking to the game, because I do like the competitive scene and everything. That definitely is something that holds my interest in games.
Great. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, it's the competitive side, and that's why I can see you're a big fan of League of Legends and Diablo. Of course, you make awesome videos on that. So yeah, I think it's these kind of games, good stuff, really. So yeah.
Well, that's kind of what I think a little bit of Diablo is missing. There's almost no competitiveness at all. You know, no leagues or anything like that.
Ooh, clan. I think we should talk about next time about clans, because yeah, I think that would be a good start, a good step in the right direction for Diablo, with clans to make it slightly more social.
Oh yes, definitely.
Cool.
It would be, it would be absolutely epic if you could have like clan wars.
Oh yes.
Like, oh my god, can you imagine that for PvP? Like, you.
I think Ray's got cut off there. He lost connection. Not sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Kind of going on with the clan thing, though. I mean, I think it would be definitely something that they could, because I don't know if they want to incorporate ladder resets into Diablo 3 necessarily.
Yeah.
And that being where you have to completely gear out your character once again. Now they may. I could definitely see them doing it, but if they did it like in the form of clans, I think it'd be a little easier. Like your clan gets a reset. Like I'm not even saying like per character, but like okay, everybody's clan's wiped. Now you're all starting to get no experience, and you all don't have any elite kills, and now you got to try to grind to get the most over the other clans or something like that. You know, just something to incorporate some like actual social play in the game.
Great.
Let you know that other players are there.
Exactly right. You know that it's not just you playing in your own game, little game and farming on your own. Because Diablo is a community experience. I think it's the game that's good on your own, but it's even better when you play with a group. And I think it's going to be best when you play with a big clan. So I think more of that in the next podcast, guys. But right now, I think this is time to call it a day, or call it a night, I guess, because this was our very first podcast. I would like to thank my friend, Mr. Core Expert Gaming, Mr. Chrome here, for coming by to our live stream and to our awesome podcast here. Also, I'd like to thank Raeezzy, who joined us and gave us awesome insight into, I don't even know what he was talking about in the beginning. What was that? Jamaican something?
Yeah, Jamaican bobsled, cool runnings.
Jamaican bobsleigh team, man, to donate to them, but also giving good insight and his humor to the whole live stream. And more importantly, I'd like to thank you all of you guys who've been commenting since the very beginning, keeping the thing going on, and to people watching it later on Twitch and on YouTube. Guys, we make lots of videos on YouTube channel, me and Mr. Core Expert Gaming, so if you would like to see more of these, do subscribe to our channel. This whole podcast will go on our YouTube channel, so please do come over there and have it to go, look at it, give it a like, and see how you've been writing messages in the chat. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to upload the whole thing there. But on behalf of all three of us, this has been the very first podcast, and this has been the Holy Hermit for you. Thank you all so very much for stopping by, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.